Welcome to the Wealth Juice Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and the many ways to achieve financial independence. We interview accomplished investors and entrepreneurs with the goal that their stories inspire you to take control of your financial future. Here to get your creative juices flowing while also documenting their own personal investing journeys are your hosts, Corey Jacobson and Ryan Bevilacqua.
Welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Juice Podcast. Corey and I are so excited to bring you another episode. Today, it's just going to be us, and we are going to be talking about the main benefits of keeping or maintaining a W-2 job while investing in real estate. So just to take it from the top for us, when we first got started in real estate investing, we always heard people on social media saying, build up as many rentals as you can to leave your W-2 job and leave your W-2 job as fast as you possibly can. And we kind of wanted to take a different approach today and talk about how impactful it is to actually keep and maintain your W-2 job as you scale your portfolio, because you don't need to leave. And especially if you love your job and you think of it as a career, or maybe it's very high paying, maybe you don't have to spend a ton of time doing it. I think a lot of people need to know about the benefits that there are to keeping it and maintaining it while investing on the side. So that's going to be the main topic for today.
I don't think this only pertains to keeping a W-2 job while you invest in real estate either. I think it's also keeping your W-2 job while you build your business or you build your side hustle to become your main hustle. It's not just real estate focused. I think that's what we've made our side business becoming full-time business. But the benefits are, and we can jump in, but part of this is that you have a community of people who run to the one side, burn the boats, go all the way in, this is make it your main thing. And then you have another side where the side that we've taken, and that's like, there's never going to be a perfect time to leave. Ryan and I are going to leave our W-2 jobs, but there's not a perfect time. And we're kind of teetering on when should that time be. And this is just full transparency. I mean, we've talked about this for 2+ years on the podcast of like, oh, we're going to be leaving our W-2 jobs, and we haven't. And I want that to come out as full transparency to people that are listening. Like, you can be an entrepreneur and you can have a full-time job and you can do both. And there are extreme benefits of staying, and there are benefits of saying, you know what, now is the time. Like I said a couple minutes ago, you won't know the exact time, but I do feel like you and I have a pretty good gauge on where our life is. And I think there will be this moment that we have kind of say, okay, we got to make a big decision now. This decision time has come. So, but this is talking about the ability to keep your job and what are the benefits of doing that while you build something on the side. So we can go into that.
I think I want to go into the number one benefit, or I think the benefit that most people think about is kind of like the no-brainers, the financial stability and security, right? So having a steady income stream while you're investing in real estate is crucial. At least it was for us. Our W-2 jobs provided consistent, reliable source of income. And it was crucial for us to cover expenses in our life, or up any expenses that came with investing that we wouldn't have been able to afford with just cash flow coming in from the property.
Yeah. And I think that's so the steady income along with that becomes the ability for you to get loans, and banks love W-2 earners. So the steady income is great. I think the key here is to get yourself to a lifestyle that you can afford, because what's going to likely happen is that if you do leave that W-2 job, let's say you're making $150,000. If you do, I don't think there's a perfect world where it's I'm going to leave this W-2 job when my side hustle is bringing in 150 grand, because it's not linear, and it's not always oh, I made 50 grand in my side hustle this year. I made 85, I made 130, I made 180. And in between that year of 130, 180, I'm leaving. It's no, at a certain point you will have to say, okay, I'm going to take a leap of faith and maybe take less money for the opportunity to work for myself, for the opportunity to pursue my dreams, for the opportunity to eventually make more money. But the thing is that there is not that opportune time that's going to punch you in the face. So having the steady income and having let's say the lifestyle that you're you know what, I can maintain this lifestyle for the next 3 years. If you can say that to yourself, I can maintain this lifestyle for the next 3 years. That way, if I make 150 and I spend 95, okay, then if I get to 100 or if I get to 110, I can start to make moves and bet on myself, So that's that's part of it. But I mentioned the easier loan approval. And then one of the things that has struck me is the predictable cash flow. Like each month I use Monarch. I love Monarch. It's like basically Mint went away and Monarch is like the paid version of Mint. It's better, hence it being paid, and Mint was free. But like I can tell, okay, these are the money that's coming in from my investments. This is the money that's coming in from projects here, project there. This is the money that's coming in from our coaching business. This is the money that's coming in from the podcast. And this is what I'm making for my W-2 job. So you and I can strategically connect on like, okay, because this money came in from here, we're able to do this. We're able to spend money in this lane. We have to cut back here. But you have that predictability that can kind of set you up, and you can look at it like look at a calendar year and say, all right, I know when I can make this XYZ move, as opposed to being a full-time entrepreneur where, you know, it's harder. I know it's harder, not from doing, but from hearing it from other people.
Yeah, I think the steady income, easier loan approval, and predictable cash flow are some of the top benefits. But then also, a lot of people forget about this is when you have a certain W-2 job, and it's a lot of corporate companies, it's leveraging those employee benefits. Think about how expensive, and if you don't know, if you're an entrepreneur or you have your own business, going to get health insurance is one of like the hot topics of the struggles of an entrepreneur, someone that's running their own business. It's very expensive. So, you know, just to give you an example, if you a wife and maybe a kid or two, or a spouse, I should say, and a kid or two, you're looking at close to like $2,000 a month for really good insurance. And that's expensive, you know, and that's broad, right? Like everyone, you could say, well, I find much better, or I found much worse. So, I'm just using $2,000 as kind of a barometer here, but that's what scares a lot of people. And that's kind of, I will say, double-edged sword with me bringing this up. But one is like the importance of leveraging this benefit through your job. Like we recently had a kid, and if I had to go out of pocket for all the hospital expenses, it'd be absolutely insane. So we were able to leverage the amazing healthcare plan that I have at work, and I didn't have to worry about it at all. I think I paid like nothing, $30. I don't even know what it was. Maybe just like the cost of like going into the hospital that day. So it's very interesting where you're able to, if you can milk your job as long as possible, you're saving a lot of money, because I think the benefit packages that some companies have are crazy. Now, I said that's double-edged sword because some people stay in their job for too long because they get the golden handcuffs because the benefits are so good, and they think, well, everything else is so expensive, healthcare, I'm not going to be able to do it. And then they never leave, right? So I just want to bring that up. But that is one of the big benefits of at the same time of when you're running these two things parallel, take advantage of it.
I think the question that people need to ask themselves is the thing that I'm doing on the side, is the real estate investing, is it just my investment? You know, if it is real estate investing, is it just my investment vehicle, or is it my business? And that's really the decision where it's like, should I stay or should I go with the W-2 job? And for us, our coaching business and our real estate coinciding, that's our business, right? It's not just our investment vehicle. And that's what we've decided. It's like, eventually, you know, you step out and you take the chance. But if you're in a W-2 job and you like it and you're able to climb and you're able to jump jobs and leapfrog and try to and create connections and make a great salary and a great living, and you look at your painting business on the side, or you look at your real estate investing, or you look at your graphic design business as something that you just love to do and you want to keep it to be on the side, then you have your, you know, a better picture and a better answer of like, maybe you're not looking to leave, but you will be able to make 150, 200, 250. And I'm throwing out numbers, but you'll be able to make this money and then get loans to buy real estate, to take the extra income that you have and go deploy it so that your money is working for you. So that's kind of the, you know, like, what should you, if you're thinking about leaving, like, is this thing something that you love and want to build into a business, or is it just the thing that you have as a hobby or something on the side to grow your money?
That's fair. I think another couple of benefits of keeping the W-2 job is under the employee benefits is the retirement savings, right? So a lot of companies offer a 401k with a match. Now, some don't offer the match, and it just, you know, you're putting money out of your paycheck and dumping it into the retirement plan. A lot of companies have the free match. So for example, let's just say you make $100,000 and your company matches 6%. If you put 6% of your paycheck, let's just call it $6,000 for the year, into this employee plan, your company will match that 6%, 100%. So you basically get $6,000 for free. Now, I'm not saying that's a reason to stay, right? Because that's not a ton of money, but look at your company and look at kind of how much you make and what their match is if they offer that. And it's another thing to take advantage of while you're investing in real estate, because you're investing, you're basically in two lanes of investing, right? You have your retirement 401k, but then you also have real estate going at the same time. So it's just a way to compound faster.
There's a psychology play that comes into effect here. And if you think about it, like even at like a grander scale, like what is a 401k doing? Like I have mixed emotions about it. Cause like part of it's like, yes, this is this great retirement vehicle that you can be set up when you're 65 years old. Another part of it is like, is it keeping you in a way in mediocrity because it's like, stay here. We have this match, like it's safety, you know, it's like, so that's where I'm saying the psychology comes in. And the point that I'm trying to make is like, set yourself a date of like, hey, I'm 32, me. By the time I'm 35, the next 3 years, I'm going to stack up as much cash and as much investments as I can, and then I'll burn the boats, right? But Rye's right. I mean, that benefit, depending upon your personality and your risk tolerance, you may say, you know what, I want to get as much benefit out of my retirement as I can. I'm okay with retiring when I'm 60 years old. I'm going to retire with a few $1 million and life's going to be good and I can scale it back at that point. But I will say that there is this part of it that's like, well, don't feel comfortable just because you're getting health insurance and getting the match. Don't let it go longer than, you know, if you're lying on your deathbed, longer than you would have wished if you were at that age. You know what I mean? So the episode is about how you can maintain your W-2 job and invest in real estate. I just think that people need to be asking themselves the questions of like, what is the right time? And, you know, like what is my risk tolerance for it? So having the health insurance, the retirement savings, and, you know, benefits as paid time off, like all of these things are great. It's all about deciding what you want for your life. So that's part of it too. And there's, you know, other benefits too. We can go down and list some more.
Let's do it. So I think for us, one of the number one things or one of the really important things was risk mitigation, right? So we didn't know if we'd be good at it, if we'd like it, or what expenses that would come up over time for real estate investing. When we bought our first property, we were like, okay, well, thank God I have my W-2 job on the side. We already mentioned the predictable cash flow. Like, you know what you're making per month, right? But you're also having that safety net of like, okay, if shit hits the fan and everything goes to ruin in the real estate side, at least I still have the money that I'm making from my W-2 job to make up from that on the side. And so that's kind of all one and the same. But like for us, it was like really having that comfort, right? It's almost like a mindset thing, but it's really risk mitigation. And it's like, if something happens, it's not like I burned the boats, right? Like I still have a backup plan, and that is the W-2 job, or maybe that's still the number one plan, and I just have this on the side. But in case things went wrong, it was that stability aspect that you felt like, okay, you know what? I still have, you know, not all my eggs or ducks in one row, where I can kind of have two streams at one time.
Yeah. And another, you know, your financing options through the banks. We said this earlier, but like W-2, they love W-2 earners. You know, you can get increased borrowing capacity and you have better loan terms and you can get lower financing rates. And I think if you can build up 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 properties, if real estate's your thing, by taking advantage of, you know, your W-2 income, stack your debt to income ratio, make sure that that's in line so that you have, you know, if you'll be showing, and this is how the banks work in a lot of scenarios. And Ryan and I went through this, like if you can show rental income on a property and it's bigger than the debt you have, it can show towards your income and your debt is reduced. So you'll still be able to be approved for more loans. I will say for anybody listening, I don't know if the loan terms have changed, but if you have a short-term rental, they're a little bit more stringent than like a normal rental property. There still is a period of time that you have to show income for, but the last time I checked, you know, I have a personal short-term rental that Rye doesn't own with me, and you need to show income on that property for 2 years before they can count it at all. So I have a mortgage, you know, call it $4,500 a month, that's showing just as debt right now. And the only thing that they can show as income is the projected long-term rents. So that's something to notice, because the projected long-term rents is probably break even. Like it's showing $4,500 in income, $4,500 in my mortgage, when in reality, I'm making $10,000 plus a month on the short-term side in revenue. That doesn't show for 2 years. So keep that in mind as you buy properties. And as you keep your W-2 job and you're wondering, wow, like, why can't I apply for this loan? Like, why am I not getting approved? And part of it is, if you have a short-term rental, it's because you need to show for a period of time. And then your income goes way up and your debt will shift down. So just something I was thinking about as we were talking.
Call. I think typically it's when you start a new business, a bank requires you to show 2 years of W-2 income from that entity, right? In order to qualify for a loan. And typically when you're starting your own business, you're not making a ton up front anyways, right? So to show that, that revenue or that income, having the W-2 is just, once again, it's that safety net, it's that stability factor. And I think even for us, like, this is probably applies to people that are in partnerships, and right, you might both have a W-2 job at the time. Like, for example, we have a coaching program that's taking off at the moment. So at some point, it might make sense for one of us to maintain our W-2 job in order to keep buying real estate, right? And leverage that, because we're going to have to show income for 2 years. So it's like, how do you play the game to be most efficient and still not kind of pull yourself or hold yourself in quicksand for a time where you can't invest in real estate, right? Like, we don't want to have to wait 2 years before we can invest in another property. And it's funny, we've been in a bunch of different deals that we've talked to you guys about, but one of our recent deals, it's interesting. Like, we had to pick who was going to go take the loan out because debt to income ratios were too high for other people. And I was the one who ended up jumping on the loan. So we always say, how do you find how do you provide value, right? Like, maybe someone brings the dollars, right? And then the other person brings the network of people and is boots on the ground doing the construction. And then another person, hey, you have a great debt to income ratio, you got to sign for the loan, right? So there's just different ways to look about the business. I think for us, I never would have thought, oh, okay, just because you make a high income on your W-2, that could be a great benefit, but that's huge for a partnership, right? So just think a little bit differently. And that's the main game of this episode, is to say, okay, like, maybe I didn't think about this. Maybe I always thought like I wanted to rush out of the W-2 job just to go full-time with real estate. It's like, this allows you to test the waters a bit and see, and there's more benefits than you think than just having income coming in as stability, right? While you invest, there's a lot of nuances throughout.
I don't think there's a wrong answer either, bro. Like, I think it's what's right for you personally. Like, for example, another benefit of keeping it is, a structured routine and time management. And it depends on your personality. Like, somebody listening may say, you know what, I'm really good at managing my own time, and I actually need to leave my W-2 job as fast as possible, or else I am being so blocked off from putting all my time and energy into something. Other people may say, you know what, I have a structured routine in my W-2 job. I can work from 9 to 5 every day, or you know what, I can work 8 to 6 Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, bang, this is the day that I get everything done for my side hustle. Like, if you have a little bit of flexibility there, you can manage your time. And that way, like, I'm not dealing with anything between 9 and 2 p.m. Everything's going towards my W-2 job. I have flexibility in the afternoon. Boom, from 2 to 5, I can work on the next, the side hustle, the side gig, the real estate business. So I think the structure that the W-2 teaches you, you should implement that once you do go full time. And that's what I think we're going to do, is like, we have meetings at certain times, but I learned this from a few people that we've had on the podcast about time blocking. And I think the W-2 helps with that. It kind of is like, well, I have these hours, I have to do this. Now I can time block. And I think we will take that time blocking over to the full-time entrepreneur life when the time is right.
I think, how do I say this? It's not back against the wall mentality, but I've brought this up a couple of times. It seems like when there's like pressure to do something and you have really no choice, that's when you really excel. And that's when you do things like, so for example, having the W-2 jobs, we know, as Corey mentioned, we only have a finite amount of time where we can get things done, and we can be searching for deals, networking, doing things. So time blocking, like, okay, we have X amount of time that we have to dedicate to the W-2 job. And then in that other time, it's like, it's just going to be wasted if I don't do it. I have to put myself in that time block. Whereas if you have the whole day to do everything, it's a lot harder. You're like, oh, I can do this at this time. I can do this at push it out. And then 3, 4, 5 days go by. So it's a nice way of like having accountability in a way, because you know that everything's limited in your time. You only have a finite amount of time to get things done. So, as we get older, the busier we get. And I think having and maintaining the W-2 jobs and this on the side has really helped us, twofold, not only benefit and structure the organization in our professional lives, but in our personal lives too. It's like really like defending your time and spending it with those who you value the most. And also another benefit of having the job that I want to talk about is kind of polishing your skills through communication, negotiation, and like problem solving. So there's some people that work in finance, right? So you're crunching numbers all day. That parlays perfectly into running numbers with real estate, right? So it's kind of like sharpening those skills. And if you can stop something completely and try to pick something else, you might spend more time on the marketing, right? Where you really need to be focusing your time on analyzation. And so you just think about like 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by, you kind of lose the sharpness on certain things when you start going through them. And at least I'm speaking for myself when I talk about analyzing real estate deals, right? Things change over time, but the more I do it, if I run 5, 10 deals a day or every couple of days, I'm much more with it. And I look at a deal, I'm like, okay, quick pass, or nope, let's take a better look at this, rather than if I wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks to do it, I'm like, okay, I'm like taking my sweet time analyzing the deal. So, and then one more part I wanted to mention is the networking opportunities. Depending where you work, we're talking very linear, like salesperson, but there's so many different professions that people have that are going to go into real estate. So I think you can leverage your network of people. Like we know a bunch of blue collar guys, right, that are in construction. They want to get into real estate. Dude, you have all the connections in the world. You probably know a plumber. You probably know an HVAC guy. You probably know a lawn care guy. So it's just, I bring all this up to say, utilize the network that you have through your W-2, because there'll be a time where, you know, maybe you need to raise money for a deal and the person next to you is making 150 grand. They're still working their W-2. You recently left and they hit you up. They're like, dude, I'm looking to make money. I still don't have time. You figured it out. They'll lend you the cash to go to do your BRRRR deal or do your flip deal. So there's just ways to, like I said, look at this differently. Whereas it's not like, ooh, the W-2 job is like we hate going to work. Let's leave. It's like, no, how can you leverage this at the same time to help scale and accelerate the growth of your portfolio?
And also brand and network yourself as that person who does that thing. You know, that's the thing. So if the people, it's okay if you're working in an environment, as long as, you know, most of the time, if you're doing your job correctly and you're doing it well, you're going to be able to keep that job. If you're able to build something on the side and then people kind of know you as that person, then when the time comes, like you said, that person who you worked with who has that salary, or the person you knew that works somewhere else that has a salary that wants to invest with you, you know, you've created this repertoire, if you will, of like, this is what I do. This is the thing that I'm going to be good at, so that you don't cut it cold turkey and then you have no people that know about the thing that you wanted to pursue. I will say this is probably the biggest benefit to keep, in my opinion, the biggest benefit to keeping your W-2 job while you build whatever on the side is the gradual wealth building. I personally am very I don't know if I love the process of watching my net worth grow and my finances grow and my investments grow. And I think that's very predictable if you have a W-2 job and you can watch that. Hey, my net worth was here. It's growing to here. I know I'm going to make this money from sales. I have this coming in on the side, and you can watch it kind of not linearly, but sort of gradually creep up. Now, that may not fit your personality. I mean, you may be more into, like, you're probably going to have less exponential growth if you keep your W-2 job. I'll say that. And that has hindered us without a doubt. I think you and I are very good at what we do. I think we're becoming better podcasters each day. I think we're becoming better coaches each day. I think that there is this gradual effect of us getting better. How much better would we get if we did force ourselves to do it full time? I think it would happen faster. I think the wealth building would happen faster, but the problem is that you have that ceiling or the floor that's lower, right? And that's where I think people just need to ask themselves, like, where am I okay with my floor getting to? And I can give you an example. If you make $150,000 in your business and you make $50,000 on the side, if you build that up to, you know, $175,000 in your W-2 and 75,000 on the side, and you can watch this go up, and then you're saying, I want to take this chance, you might in the next few years turn that 75 in your side business into 300, but you might stay at 75 for a while. So it's like this, you know, the power of exponentiality is that you could achieve that, but the ceiling, or the floor, excuse me, is lower. So the gradual wealth building is versus the exponentiality of it is kind of like, I think, the biggest benefit to staying in the W-2 job as long as you can, and then, you know, figuring it out from there.
I agree. I think the hard part here is, like, the W-2 is predictable as long as you don't get fired or you don't leave, or like the world doesn't collapse, right? And I know that you're one. We always say, like, hey, you're one firing away from having to start over and figuring it back out. But I'm saying, for most people in their brain, they're like, okay, if I'm making 150 grand, that's predictable for me to map out my future, right? I just have to figure out my savings rate, try to save more than I spend, and then invest the rest. And then for me, it's like, and as I'm thinking about this out loud, it's like, it's that steady creep that, is working in the background, right? And then anything we make on top through the side hustles and through real estate is like icing on the cake, right? So for me, I think sometimes we think about that backwards. To your point, is like, hey, if we just left, would we be able to make that 150 or 250, 350 faster because we were spending all our time, energy, and effort on it? But when I think about that 150, I'm like, well, if I just stayed at the job for five to 10 years, like I know I would make that money anyways. Whereas there's going to be some years in entrepreneurship that maybe you're only making 50 grand, you're only making that 75. So just bringing that to your point is like, there's something in the back of your head. I don't know if it's like fear of the unknown. And you're like, well, this is way more predictable, the W-2, than, just going out on my own and hoping that I can maintain this for as long as we possibly did, right? The market shifts in real estate, it goes up, down, mostly up, but like things happen in the world, and it changes things. And it's a lot scarier, I think, when you're out on your own versus having the company that, kind of you feel like has your back, you have the benefits, you have like, you just show up to work and you're getting the paycheck, right? So just an interesting kind of ping pong back and forth on, like, I think a lot of people go through this, manifestation or battle inside. They're like, hey, well, I know I'm not supposed to stay here, or I feel like I'm bigger than what I should be doing on my W-2, but it's so safe and cozy. And like, I know that I'm not in trouble if I stay here. I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts there, but we go back and forth all the time.
I think it depends on your personal scenario completely. Like, you may feel that you have a tight-knit community at your job and that you really enjoy the people that you work with and you enjoy the challenge or whatever aspect of your job that you can pinpoint that you like, or you can feel like you're a number in a system. And if you feel like you're a number in a system and you could get fired any day, then your stability is not what you just said it was. You know what I mean? It really depends, and it's very circumstantial. And I think in sort of a conclusion of this, just for people to think of, like, what do I do from here? The reality of the situation is that the state of America and the world today and inflation is that you need to build something. It doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar business, but you can't rely just on your W-2 job unless you say, I'm going all in on this thing and I'm going to make this my thing. And I love it so much that I can provide or I can thrive and I can love it and I can do all these things. That's very possible too. But if that's not the case, I think it's imperative that you have something. It doesn't have to be a side hustle, but it's got to be either you have to invest. It got to be an investment vehicle, some sort of thing that you're putting your extra money into. And you may say, Corey, I'm good, man. I can work in this job for 15 years and grind it and my savings rate's 50%. And I will put all this money into real estate or into the stock market. And in 15, 20 years, I'm going to be set. And that's fine too. My point is that you can't sit idle. You can't just solely work a job that you hate and not make enough money and wait for things to happen. And I say can't, like, I'm not trying to tell people what to do. I'm just saying, like, I see where this trend is going. Politics are shit. Nobody likes, the presidency. Like, it's just very, like, I don't think it's going to get easier to just sit at your job and make money, and your dollar is going to be worth less and less and less. So that's why the investing and the building something for yourself, I feel like, is important, especially as we move into the back half of 2024 and 25.
I think to sum that up, I think the wealth gap is widening, and the people that are, making decent money and they know how to invest and they have a couple side hustles, they have multiple streams of income. They are just getting themselves up into that top bucket, and the people that are not are just shrinking lower and lower because inflation. And there's a lot of other factors too, right? As you just mentioned. So to kind of put a bow on this thing, we are at this impasse ourselves, and we are still maintaining our W-2 jobs for the benefits that they have. We still are passionate about both of them. I think we go back and forth on kind of how long we'll be there. And we talk about this, and we always seem to have a new plan in place and things that we want to get into. And we've tried a lot of different things in real estate and a lot of different strategies. And I think we found our lane, and same with the side hustle. And really we're like our purpose and our passion. And so we're going to be exploring that. But I think what we want to do is to show people, like, hey, we have maintained our W-2 jobs at a high level, and we've invested in real estate. Sorry, a little stutter there. But we've built a portfolio from starting at 1 unit, just like everyone else when they buy their first, all the way up to 70. And we have, minority ownership in some of the units. We have full ownership in others. And it's comprised of many different things. We have single families, we have duplexes, we have the syndications, we have the Airbnbs, boutique hotel, like just things. 18 unit. I'm just thinking we've tried a lot of different things, and what it has all circled back to when we think about it is the number one thing that was the most important decision we made was buying our first property and buying that first investment, first rental property, because we shifted from consumer to investor and we became business owners overnight. And it really helped us in so many different ways in our lives that, we kind of went through today, and the W-2 has certainly helped us and given us that confidence to say, okay, I can go do this. And if worst case scenario doesn't all work out, I still can fall back on the job. So with that, we, as you guys, most listeners know, depending on the time this came out, that we've launched our coaching program. And it's really important for us to help other people change their lives through the power of real estate. And we're helping a limited number of people. Corey and I are going to work one-on-one, and we're building out a program, or we have a program, I should say. We have a student that signed up the other day. And we want to.
By the time this comes out, there'll be several more that have signed up too. This won't come out for several weeks, so a couple weeks. So we had our first person, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We had our first person sign up, and I anticipate this to fill up pretty quick. So we're excited. We really are.
Yeah, we're excited. So to my point here is, if you hear this episode, reach out to us, drop us a DM. We've had people, then the word we've been saying, just the trigger word for us, DM us the word ready, or just say, hey, I listened to the episode and I'm interested in the coaching program. And if we still have spots open, we'd love to have a conversation with you. I think it comes down to you guys not only vetting us as coaches, but we'll be vetting the people that we work with, because this is not for everyone. So we want to kind of really do a deep dive. We'll have a 30-minute conversation and kind of go through your portfolio, if you have one now, and in terms of investing, your W-2. We'll talk about a bunch of different things and just see if we're right fit together. We don't want to get into any type of mentorship with someone that we don't think we can help out. So make sure to drop us a DM and let's just see if it's a right fit, because for us, as I mentioned, this really was the number one thing that changed the trajectory of our futures. And we found something that we're passionate about, we love to do, and we love to help others. So it's full circle.
I've said this on a couple podcasts. I'll just say it again in conclusion. If you buy 2 rental properties and you hold on to them for 30 years, you're going to retire a millionaire. Again, what will a millionaire mean in 30 years from now? Less than it does now, but guess what? It's better than not being a millionaire. My point. So you don't have to have 50. You don't have to have 100. Getting that first puts you in the mindset of, I can do this. I can grow it. I see the light. I can expand. I'm going to be around people that I want to be around, hopefully. Hopefully that's us and the community we're building. Again, we're really excited. It's our thing. We feel very qualified to teach people about this. I would not feel comfortable if somebody comes to me and asks me what stocks to buy. I'm going to point them in the direction of somebody who taught me how to do it. If somebody asks me how to buy their first rental property, we've done it. You know what I mean? And we've grown it. And so that should give people confidence that we feel like we're really providing a service that is right in our wheelhouse. So.
Percent. And I think one of the things I wanted to touch on too was the community aspect that you mentioned. So we're going to be running everything on school. And I think a lot of people, they as you listen to this, like, oh, what does coaching look like? There'll be group coaching calls, once a week. We'll have guest speakers, people that have come on the podcast and that are really specialized in a niche. So like, think of creative financing for an example, Airbnb, another example, syndications as another example. There's flipping, fix and flip, there's so many different strategies, right? And our goal is just to get you your first rental property, right? And work with you to do that. But then from there, you're going to be seasoned at some point and you're going to be like, okay, well, I want to try a different strategy. Or maybe you want to do one rental at a time. Michael Zuber, if you haven't read his book, it's great, but basically shows the power of building wealth simply one rental at a time, as Corey mentioned. And so the point is, this community is going to have investors in it and we're going to have deal flow. And that's the important thing. What we would have killed for something like this when we first started, like 25, right out of school, and or right in our W-2 jobs, making a good income. And you're like, I know I can't see myself working until I'm 65 at this cubicle, right? And like playing the corporate game and talking and playing the chess game and doing all that. And it's like, what else is there? And it's hard for you, or we found that it was hard to find people that were like-minded like us. Like a lot of our friends didn't want to talk about it. Luckily, we had each other so we could riff back and forth. And then we had to build this thing out, right? And then we built the community on Instagram where we could talk with everybody that listens to the podcast. And really, we're trying to bring that into a centralized place where people that really want to get after this thing, we can all work together. And we have the resources. We're going to continue to build, but then it's a flow of analyzing deals. Hey, does this work? Does this work? The market's going to change, but the one thing that's going to stay consistent is the community, right? And so if you can grab a couple of units as this thing builds out, like you're going to set yourself up for a really, really solid future. And that's exciting to us too, because we're always looking for new partners and people that to bring on the team. So we're really excited. And I know podcast is going to be out. It's probably already launched. It's going to be already launched by the time this comes out, but definitely DM us because we want to see if you're a right fit to work with us, and we're happy to help.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. I think we can wrap this up. This was a kind of a you and I talking about, for people that are listening, the benefits of the W-2. I'd love to talk to people about that too, that topic. It's a very, I think that you and I have a good dissection of where people are, and that's part of this, this conversation after you buy your first rental, what comes next. And maybe there's another offer that we can provide once people have reached a certain stage. So thanks for tuning in. We love that you listen. If you would leave us a review, that would be amazing. They go a long way. We have 176 as of now on Apple, bunch of 5 stars. It helps us out. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, once again, it's a pleasure delivering another episode for you guys. This is more of an informational series one, and we'll probably be doing more of these. I know that these have been fan favorites since the beginning. We did these way back in the beginning when we were first launching our portfolio. So we always love having big dogs on and people that inspire us. But I think sometimes people really just want the nitty gritty of what's going on now and how it's tangible for them and how they can start. So we have a bunch of topics. We'll be rolling out more informational episodes like this. And if you like it, leave us a 5-star review and let us know what you liked about the episode. It's very, very helpful for us to figure out what topics we want to talk about next and what's benefiting the audience. Like, we're not doing this just for us, right? Like, we can talk about real estate all day, but it's like, what is impacting you and what can help change your life? And that's what we want to bring to you, and we'll keep it fun, right? So other than that, another great episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the Wealth Juice Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share with friends. The more ratings we get, the more ears we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you with more high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram and YouTube at Wealth Juice Official, where we post daily tips, tricks, and document our own journey towards financial freedom.